This is Matthew Taylor Coleman. A devout evangelical, the father of two was close with the Santa Barbara Christian surfing community. People who met Matthew described him as a nice guy, to the point of it almost being unsettling at times. Although on paper, Matthew and his wife have the perfect life, over the past year, Matthew began exploring Qanon conspiracy theories. Matthew would bring up the conspiracy theories to his friends, simultaneously mentioning the insanity of the theories while also admitting they were making sense to him. During times of crisis, it's normal for people to turn to various conspiracy theories in order to try and make sense of the surrounding chaos. What isn't normal is what Matthew did next.
911, what's your emergency?
In early August 2021, Matthew's wife spoke to the authorities, explaining that she, Matthew, and their two children, 2-year-old Khalil and 10-month-old Roxy, were scheduled to go on a family camping trip. Instead, Matthew took the two children, put them in a van with no car seats, and disappeared, leaving his wife, Abby, behind and refusing to answer text messages. When speaking to the authorities, Abby said she didn't believe the children to be in danger and she didn't think Matthew would harm her kids. Unfortunately, she was terribly wrong. A day later, with still no word from Matthew, authorities advised Abby to try and use the Find My iPhone application. They quickly discovered Matthew was in Mexico. At 1 p.m., authorities took custody of Matthew's Mercedes Sprinter van, noticing the children were nowhere to be found and blood was on the seats. The next day, on August 9, 2021, at 8 a.m., Matthew's two kids were found murdered, stabbed in the chest by a spear fishing hook multiple times, and left in a ditch on the Mexican border. Matthew waived his Miranda rights and agreed to speak to investigators. It was then that he confessed to the horrible crime. He explained that he drove his kids to Mexico on August 7th, putting the 10-month-old baby in a box due to the lack of a car seat. At 5 a.m., Matthew pulled off the road in a secluded part of Mexico. There, he killed both children, stabbing the 10-month-old multiple times first, then killing the 2-year-old. He explained that he dumped their bodies in some brush roughly 30 yards away from the killing and disposed of the murder weapon in bloody clothes near a creek. When asked why he would commit such heinous crimes, he explained that he became enlightened by Qanon and Illuminati conspiracy theories. Matthew claims he began having visions and seeing signs revealing that his wife had serpent DNA and had passed it on to his children. He believed his children would grow up to become monsters, so he had to kill them. According to the FBI report, Matthew acknowledged what he did was wrong, but he believed it was the only course of action that would save the world from monsters. Although you may believe you're looking at the face of pure evil, conspiracies involving demons and satanic energy have been a common historical trope. Everyone knows about the 1692 Salem witch trials, in which several people were hanged after being accused of bewitching local girls having spasms and delusions in the village. Hundreds of years later, there was the 1980s Satanic Panic. The conspiracy held that satanic cabals were all over the country, abusing and brainwashing people, specifically children. This panic spread after a therapist published a report about a child who was allegedly abused by Satanists. Next, there were accusations that a local preschool was performing satanic rituals, which led to one of the longest and most expensive criminal trials, eventually leading to the acquittal of the preschool teacher. The Satanic Panic of the 1980s spread from the US across the globe. South Africa became particularly ardent in fighting these satanic cabals, creating the world's first occult-related crimes unit in 1992. Christian belief was required in order to serve in the unit. Fast forward to the current year, and the modern-day Satanic Panic? The idea that a bunch of elite Democrats are secretly engaged in child sex trafficking, all while Donald Trump and his supporters bravely fight to protect the children. Sadly, what began as a 4chan post by Qanon Patriot in 2017 is now responsible for motivating a seemingly normal guy to commit one of the most disturbing crimes in recent history. It's hard to understand how someone could believe something as seemingly crazy as Qanon, to the point of committing murder in the name of those beliefs. But crazy conspiracy theories aren't new. In fact, they are most common during socioeconomic struggles. Conspiracy theories became a thing almost as soon as movable print became a thing. The mid-15th century saw conspiracy theories proliferate with the creation of the Gutenberg press. As information spread quicker, it meant people's anxious interpretations of that information also spread. Conspiracy theories have most often flourished during times of great socio-political upheaval and uncertainty. You see this kind of boom in conspiracies whenever there's political or social unrest throughout history. A social psychologist who researches conspiracies said, "The Salem witch trials began when massive political and social changes were taking place in New England. Moral panic-related conspiracies rely on the idea that a covert network of evildoers are attempting to do more evil. This belief motivated anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which led to the Holocaust, McCarthyism, the Satanic Panic of the 80s, and now QAnon. Even more so, the idea of a covert evil group harming children is also a common conspiratorial belief. Anti-Semitic conspiracies like the blood libel have long existed, alleging Jews perform evil rituals to sacrifice Christian children and drink their blood. There was the Pizzagate conspiracy, which alleged a secret sex trafficking ring was taking place at a local pizza shop. This false claim, propagated by Alex Jones, led to a man showing up at the location with a gun, ready to save the kids. Conspiracy theories in general become more common during times of crises because they also give the believer a feeling of control. When a virus is spreading, people are out of work, and economic pressure mounts, it's no surprise that conspiracy theories have begun spreading almost as fast as COVID at a Republican rally. Unfortunately, the modern QAnon conspiracy has also become increasingly intertwined with evangelical Christian beliefs, making alleged killer Matthew Coleman an even more susceptible target. According to the 2021 American Perspectives Survey, they asked a random sample of more than 2,000 Americans to rate the accuracy of a series of statements. One of those statements was about the core tenet of QAnon: Donald Trump has been secretly fighting a group of child sex traffickers that include prominent Democrats and Hollywood elites. Of the respondents who rated that statement as mostly or completely accurate, 27% were white evangelical Christians. Depending on how you define it, evangelical Christians make up about a quarter or less of the US population, so they're at least slightly overrepresented in the QAnon contingent. Looking at the data another way, 31% of white evangelical Republicans rated the statement as mostly or completely accurate. Either way you slice it, there's significant overlap between Q followers and evangelicals. But why is this? Well, there are many reasons. One of them being that evangelicals tend to distrust modern media and journalism. This is crucial because before conspiracy theorists, religious or not, believe something loony, they first build their worldview on total distrust. We've heard the saying before, if you don't believe anything, you can fall for everything. That dynamic is apparent in surveys as well. For instance, a Pew survey from 2019 found that 44% of the public believed journalists had high ethical standards, while only 27% of white evangelical Christians did, and 7% of white evangelical Christians said they had a great deal of confidence that journalists would act in the best interest of the public, compared with 15% of total respondents who felt that way. It's no coincidence that the demographic more likely to distrust the media, the reporting, and journalism is also more likely to believe fringe conspiracy theories. Another reason Matthew's evangelical beliefs may have made him more susceptible is because Christians have always believed in a divine plan. A big plan that we may or may not see, a spiritual fight between good and evil. QAnon provides a cohesive story to explain this divine fight, something evangelical Christians are particularly more likely to accept since they already primarily operate on faith and reject modern scientific findings more frequently. Although it's more common for Christian conspiracy theorists, I've noticed that generally, conspiracy theorists alike prefer to tell a story. It's hard to accept that the world is random, scary, and unpredictable. Humans much prefer a holistic story with a beginning, a middle, and a happy ending. But that's not real life, and no amount of storytelling is going to make it so. These are only some of the reasons why people are more likely to fall for conspiracy theories. We may never know if Matthew Coleman was sick in the head for a long time, or if he just had a sudden break from reality. Currently, he spends about 23 hours a day in an isolated cell away from other inmates for his own protection. He's awaiting trial and is eligible for the death penalty. Being alone with his thoughts for nearly 24 hours a day seems to be doing Matthew some good. He recently sent a handwritten letter to a family friend begging for forgiveness. The friend told People magazine that Coleman was despondent and hopeless in the letter he sent from lockup and was dreading the holidays in jail. He said he's sorry, that he never wanted to cause pain, and that he's working through why he made the choices he made. It was a very sad note, the friend said. Meanwhile, Matthew's wife, Abby, is in total shock. Abby is devastated, a family friend tells People in its latest issue. She is confused, stunned, and just destroyed inside. She never had any idea he thought all these things. She thinks he just snapped. Something must have happened in his brain. She reportedly wants to meet with Matthew to try and acquire answers as to why he'd do something like this. But I think we already know why. Matthew fell for a conspiracy theory and lived out his beliefs in the most heinous way. It's almost ironic how Matthew wholeheartedly believed he was saving the world from evil when he himself is the one who is evil. This is typically what happens. The constant virtue signaling to some vague victim encourages a hero complex, and the believer in the conspiracy ends up perpetuating an act of violence in the name of protecting the vague victim. It happened with Matthew Coleman and his belief that he was saving the world from his evil children. It happened with Daniel Rodriguez, who nearly tased an officer to death during the January 6th riots because he believed Trump and the election were victims of the evil satanic elites. It happened with Edgar Madison Welch when he fired an AR-15 inside a pizza restaurant to protect the kids being trafficked. This happens time and time again, and it must end. Just remember that Matthew is unique in his crimes, but he's not unique in falling for seemingly ridiculous beliefs. It's happened throughout history, and it could happen to me, and it could happen to you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.